All right, math, this is the answers video to day 32. This is the graphing polynomials assignment, and let's go ahead and get started with this. So square brackets indicate endpoints that are included in the interval. Parentheses indicate endpoints that are not included in the interval, and parentheses are always used with infinity and negative infinity. Okay, so over here are symbols. Included is a closed circle. It looks like a dot, but it's called a closed circle. Line doesn't apply, and that uses square brackets. Okay, excluded is anything that's an open circle. So I'll just draw the closed circles that, and the open circle is that, and that is indicated by parentheses. Alright, so let's get down here. These are pretty straightforward, and it's not as hard as it's been seeming to be. So the domain is the furthest range, excuse me, let me not use that word. The domain is the furthest values along the x-axis. So the furthest value along the x-axis is this one. It's -1, 2, 3. So it's -3 to the left, and it does include that point. And the furthest point to the right is a little tricky. This line goes up. It's a curved line, but it goes up forever, and it continues to move to the right. So over on this side, let me write this here. Over on this side, it's -3. Over on this side, it is infinity. Okay, so it's -3, infinity on the x-axis. All right, going up and down. It is, now we're interested in the y coordinates. So the lowest point right here, the y coordinate is -6.9. You come down, you come over 0.3 and down 0.6.9, -6.9. Okay, so that's going to be the lowest point for the range, and it includes that point. I'll go ahead and draw an arrow like that, -6.9 down, and going up, it goes to positive infinity, so we'll write that there. And it never reaches it, so it's a curved bracket, and I'm sorry, this should have been a curved bracket too. All right, that takes care of that. Over here, so domain, it goes down to negative infinity for the range, and for the domain, it goes this way to negative infinity. Okay, then going up, it goes as high as 8.4 on the y-axis, and going down, it goes as low as we already said that, negative infinity. And we didn't say to the right on this one is it goes to 2, 1, 2. So the domain is going to be from negative infinity to 2. And it never reaches 2. So it's going to be a 2 with a curved parenthesis. Going up and down, you always start down and move up. Just as here, you always start left. The leftmost component is this one. The one furthest to the right is this one. Okay, then this down, you use the down component here. Negative infinity, and going up to as high as 8.4 right there. And it does actually touch 8.4. So that's a square bracket, okay? That's all there is to domain and range. It's not that complicated. Notice that in each of these are both x components, these are both y components. These are both x components, these are both y components, all right? Okay. Let's read this down here. Okay, interval of increase as the section of, as any section of a function f of x, the value increases as the value gets larger, that is upward, as you look from left to right. Constant interval, any section of the function where the value of f of x remains constant as value of x gets larger, and that is flat. You can just say flat. As you look from right to left, an interval of decrease where f of x is decreasing, and that's going to be downward. So for this one up here, this top one, increase, it slopes that way. For decrease, it slopes down that way. And for the one in the middle, flat, it's just flat like that. Okay. So now what they're asking us to do, a little hard to fit this all on screen, I'll try. Okay. So model B, they want you to take this graph and find the intervals of increase and decrease. So let's start. So you start from the left, you move to the right, and you find places where the graph is going up. So when we get to here, between these 2 points, the graph is going down. Okay, so at this point, negative 2.6. By the way, one thing to remember is that, okay, so intervals of increase and decrease are always x values. Okay, so let's look up here. So we're coming down between these 2 points. Now between this point, which is negative 2.6 on the x-axis, over to here, which is, it should be a negative sign here. This is a typographical error. Okay, that's a negative 1.5. So from negative 2.6 to negative 1.5 is an interval of increase, and it includes both of those points, so it's square brackets. Okay, to here, then it goes down, and now once it gets here, and that's at 0.3 on the x-axis, you move over to there and down, 0.3 up to infinity on the x-axis. That's going to be an interval of increase. And it never reaches that, so it's a curved bracket. Okay, how about decrease? It goes down from this point right here, which is negative 1, 2, 3, down to here, which on the x-axis is negative 2.6. In other words, this interval right here. So I'm going to have to go on the screen there, and down to negative 2.6. Again, we're only interested in x components, these going this way. Okay, that's down. Now it's down also from this point right here, which is on the x-axis right here. This is negative 1.5. It's that value until it gets to here, which is the 0.3. So that's a decrease. It includes both of those points down there. So the increase, excuse me, it increases from here to here, and from here to here, and it increases from here to here, and from here to there. So those are the intervals of increase and decrease. Okay, at the top of page 2, about the first half, are some definitions. So let me just sketch a simple function. It's going to look like this. It's going to come down, go back up. This is the x-axis. This is the y-axis here. Okay, so x-intercepts are where it crosses the x-axis. That would be here, here, and here. Those are x-intercepts right there. Okay, so that's this, are those 3 points. You can have a lot of different x-intercepts. Y-intercept is the place where it crosses the y-axis, so that would be this point right here. You can only have one y-intercept. Why that is, we'll talk about at a later time. Okay, the maxima is, this graph is going up forever and down forever. So the maxima, or maximum, is infinity, and the minimum is this down here. It goes down to negative infinity. Right there. Now there's a local maximum right here, because just in this little area, that's the highest point of this area right here. This would be a local minimum right there where I'm putting the x, because it's the lowest point in that general area right there. So those are local. I'll go ahead and write those out. Local minimum, and this point right here is a local maximum. Okay, all right, so we'll go on down here. So they talk about maximum, minimum, local maximum, and minimum there. Okay, notation: in order to determine the end behavior of function f of x, we use the following notation: as x approaches negative infinity, or as x approaches infinity, positive infinity. Okay, let's go ahead and do a few of these. All right, x-intercepts. So x-intercepts are the places where it crosses the x-axis. There's 4 of them. This is negative 3, negative 2, negative 1, and positive 1. So just write those down. Okay, those are the x-intercepts. The y-intercept, there's only one y-intercept. It's that point right there. And you would have to come down to -5, -6. Okay, maxima. The maximum, it goes on the maximum now deal with the y components. So here it's going to be infinity. And infinity, that's going to be a coordinate, x and y. Okay, and there's a local maximum right there at 1.59. 0.9. It's -1.5, +0.9, and it goes through that exact point. So that's a local. Minimum is down here. And that is the absolute minimum. There's no lower point on the graph anywhere than this right here. So that's going to be this. Okay, there that is right there. Okay, and there's a local minimum right there at -2.6, -1.4. Okay, so there you go. You got the absolute maximum is infinity. The absolute minimum is 3, -6.9. Then you've got a local maximum right there at 1.5 and 0.9, -1.5. That's a typo. And down here at -2.6, -1.4 is a local minimum. All right, now x approaches, as x approaches negative infinity, so as you go from here on forever, f of x approaches 0. That's the furthest point to the left on the graph, so that's going to be 0. And as x approaches infinity, going to the right, then f of x, that is y value, is going to approach infinity. All right, keep going. Okay, so domain, remember that domain, when you order them, put them together in pairs, is only x values. And range is only y values. Okay, so the domain for this one, it goes as far to the left as -2, 1, 2. Okay, this down here refers to this point. But it goes as far to the left as -2, and it goes as far to the right. I'm going to write that here, -2, and it goes as far to the right as infinity. It'll go on forever because this line goes up forever. So the domain is going to be, okay, and it doesn't reach infinity. So remember, those are both x coordinates, -2 this way and infinity this way. All right, range is only up and down. It's only y values. So it goes as low as -2.3 right there, and you start with that one, the lowest point, and you go up to the highest point. Okay, as you go across, you go to the highest point. It goes as high as infinity. Okay, -2.3 on the bottom side and infinity on the top side for y. Intervals of increase. Okay, let's start with those. So it's increasing from this to this. Now, intervals of increase are only, okay, so intervals of increase are only the x value. So where does it increase? It's increasing from here to here. So the x value of this point is -1.6, and the x value of this point is directly above the origin, so it's 0. All right, so it's going to be, and then there's a second one over here. The x value here is 1.6, and then it goes on to infinity. So +1.6 to infinity. So from here to infinity. The intervals of decrease, it's from -2 down to -1.6. Both of those values are included. It's going down, then it goes up. Now from here it goes down again. From 0 on the x-axis down to 1.6 on the x-axis. Again, increase and decrease intervals, you only state the x coordinates. Only state the x coordinates there. Okay? there, and right there. Okay. Okay, here we have a graph. Now it has definite starting and ending points. It starts here at x equals 0, y equals -8, and it ends over here at 4, and y equals +8 up there. Okay, so the domain goes from 0 to 4, but it does not include 4 because that's an open circle. Okay, and the range goes from -8 down here up to +8 up here. It includes the -8. It does not include the +8. So that's an open circle. All right, intervals of increase. The entire interval is an interval of increase. That may look like it's flat. It's not. It's always either going down on this side of the dot or up on this side of the dot. So it's never truly flat. So the intervals of increase, you only want the x coordinates of an interval of increase. So that's from 0 to 4. And intervals of decrease, there are none. All right, let's keep going on this. Okay, so this one's a little bit crazy. So the domain, okay, to this, in this direction, it's -infinity, and in this direction it is infinity. Okay, in this direction down, it's -infinity, -infinity, and going up here, it's +infinity also. Okay, so let's write those down. There you go. That's the coordinates. Again, these are x coordinates, x values, and these are y values, both of them. It's not an x and a y, okay? All right, intervals of increase. Okay, where is it going up? So it's going up from the very beginning all the way until it gets to, and you only want, remember, you only want x values for intervals of increase and decrease. So it's going from -infinity to the left up to -3. And it includes -3, so it's a square bracket. Then here's another one. This coordinate is -2.3, -8.2 down, but we're only interested in the x coordinate. So it's -2.3, and it continues up until it gets to that point, which is -0.3. And it includes both of those points. So -2.3, -0.3. Again, those are both x coordinates. X coordinate, all of these are x coordinates. So now it's here. The last interval of increase starts from here, so at 0.7, and goes until infinity. Okay, so those are the interval of increase 1, interval of increase number 2, interval of increase number 3. Okay, intervals of decrease are from -3 down to this point, which is -2.3, and both points are included. And then the other one is from this point, which is -0.3, down to this point, which is 0.7. And those are both included. And that's it, intervals of decrease. Again, all of these are x values, none are y values. Okay, there you go. Come on over here. Domain. So this goes to the left is to -infinity because this line's going to go up forever. And going to the right, it's going to go to +infinity because this line goes down forever. Okay, and then going up, it's going to go to +infinity. And going down, it's going to go to -infinity. Okay, now you always read this from left to right. So from left to right, like you read a book, it's -infinity to +infinity is the domain. And then the range, now you're going from left to right. So the range starts at +infinity, and as you go from left to right, it goes down to -infinity. Okay, intervals of increase. There's only one. It's from 0 to this point here, which is 3.3 on the x-axis. So that would be right in there is 3.3. So each square is 5. So 3.3 is in between the first two, is in the first square. Okay, so that's going to be here, and it includes those 2 points. To there. Then intervals of decrease, there's one. It comes from two rather. There's one right here. It comes from negative infinity to 0 on the x-axis. These are both all x-axes for increase and decrease. Okay. Then the second one is from 3.3 to positive infinity. It goes from here down to infinity, so that means it goes from 3.3 all the way to the right. Okay, there you go. All right, keep going. Okay, x-intercepts. They're the points where it crosses the x-axis. Okay, you only need the x-coordinates for those. So this one is negative 1.7. And the second one is over here. Okay, this is a typo. It's positive 1.7. There's 0. There's 1.7. It's not quite to 2, so it's positive 1.7. And then it's 0 on the y-axis. An x-intercept is always 0 on the y-axis. Okay, so it's 1.7, not negative 1.7. So I'll just emphasize that. Y-intercept. You can only have one y-intercept, and that's at 0. At y equals 0. Excuse me, the y-intercept is at 0, excuse me. Yeah. Okay. All right, maximum. So you have a maximum here at negative infinity. And you have two locals. At this point, and that's going to be negative 0.8. 4.5. And the other one is here at positive, again change that to a positive 1.70. So the locals are these, both of these. The absolute maximum, okay, and the maxima is positive infinity. It goes as high as infinity up here. Okay, the minima is negative infinity down here, and there's two locals, one right there and another one right there, 0.8, negative 4.5. Those should be square brackets because they goes exactly through. So local, right there. Okay, so the range on this one, it goes from negative infinity to positive infinity. Okay, up and down. Intervals of increase. Okay, so these are only x values. Okay, so it's increasing from this point right here, which is negative 1.7, until it gets to this point right here, which is negative 0.8. And it includes both of those points. So it's increasing here. It's also increasing here. On the x-axis, that's 0.8 to 1.7. All right, intervals of decrease. So it's going down from negative infinity until it gets here to negative 1.7. And then it decreases from this point, negative 0.8 on the x-axis, over to here, 1.7. Okay, so that's a decrease. And then another one here, give me negative 0.8 down to 0.8. My mistake. It's from here down to here. So I'm going to change that to 0.8, 0.8. All right, so down to here, and now from here, 1.7 down to negative infinity. right there. Okay? Finally, as x approaches negative infinity, that is, as we go back to the left on the x-axis, then the f of x, the y, will go up to infinity. It's going upward, so that's positive infinity. And over here, as x approaches infinity, meaning it's going to the right, then y is going to go down to negative infinity. All right, and that takes care of this assignment. We're not going to do the last page. It's just more of the same. So just practice these, learn these, and that will be it.